Oh, amazing. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be at your hackathon. I wish I was there myself, and I'm really excited to hear about some of the things that you're going to come up with, because hackathons are where you create the future. And back in 2018, I actually was in Nigeria at a hackathon at Workstation in Lagos, and it was one of the most exciting hackathons that I've ever been to. And I've been to hackathons all around the world. So to all the teams, thank you for coming. And you've got a chance during this hackathon to come up with some really amazing ideas that are going to have an impact on the world. So thank you for being here, and thank you for having me, because I just love what you're doing and I love to be part of it. And hopefully one day with this pandemic, I'll be able to come. But right now we just have to do our best with what we've got. So I think Africa and emerging markets is where some of the most exciting innovations are going to come from. Now, why do I say that? The first thing is mobile technology, because we now have globally coverage of mobile technology, 70% across the world, and over 1 billion of these connections are in Africa. And what that means is that you can connect with people, you can connect to them, you can provide services to them, they can connect to the economy, and they can connect to the world. So that changes everything, especially for remote and isolated populations. And that's just mobile. But internet penetration in Africa is growing at between 9 and 10% a year. And nearly 90% of young people under 30, live in emerging economies, and they're the ones who see digital as the way they're going to create their futures. So you have all those things going for you, but plus Africa's a continent that has some pretty major problems. But you might be interested to know, because this is a blockchain hackathon, that a recently released report talking about the top 10 countries with the biggest proportion of their population owning crypto, being Philippines, Brazil, South Africa, Thailand, Nigeria, Indonesia, Colombia, Turkey, Malaysia, and Portugal. So even with things like crypto, which are relatively new innovations, emerging economies, including South Africa and Nigeria, are well topping UK and US and Europe. So that's just a sign that if things solve problems for people, then they adopt them. So one of the things that we've seen, which is really important, obviously, during the COVID pandemic, has been the explosion of things like mobile money and mobile payments. Because a lot of people in Africa and elsewhere rely on remittances that are being sent by their family and friends overseas. And what we've seen is that during COVID, we expect a large proportion of the population of Africa to fall back into poverty, which is really a tragedy. But if you're thinking about creating sustainable economic growth for Africa, one of the things that I encourage you to think about is how you can use technology to lift those poor people out of poverty. And some of it can be done by various solutions that will allow them to have identity and to be able to connect to the economy and receive money. Now, whether it's government cash transfers or whether it's crypto, and there are crypto philanthropy projects going on. You might have heard one called the Good Dollar. And if you haven't, then go down and download the app, because you can download good dollars every day. And the philosophy behind that project is that they want to create universal basic income, when anyone from anywhere can claim these good dollars and then can start to spend them in a marketplace. There's another cryptocurrency that's really focused on emerging markets, and it's got a lot of users in Nigeria, by the way, called Electronium, and you can get access to that. You can, using ETN, you can get access to mobile phone credit, and you can start selling any skills that you have into their AnyTasker platform, which allows you to sell your skills and get paid in crypto. So there's all these things going on, and many of them are going on with Africa. And I hope during the course of this hackathon, then you can think of some of the ways to sustainably solve the problems that you have in Africa using blockchain and other technologies. So even though, I'm a blockchain fan, that's for sure, but I also recognize that blockchain will often be used with AI or with IoT or with 3D printing and other technologies to be able to solve particular problems. So when you're thinking about your solution in the hackathon, I encourage you to see a suite of technologies, one of which, and a fundamental underpinning, I'm sure, is going to be blockchain. So some of the things that have been happening with blockchain that are not directly around payments and remittances is digitising women's cooperatives in Mali. And not only in Mali, but I'm just going to use the example in Mali because it's one that I know, with a group called Hive Online. So it enables women to both pool their money and to borrow money and invest money in building their businesses. So these are important kinds of innovations that have a really powerful local impact for people who only transact in small amounts. You also have the potential for micropayments for village entrepreneurs. And one of the things that I learned during the pandemic, and this isn't in Africa, but I'm sure you'll have examples in Africa, was talking to a crypto remittance provider in the Philippines. And he was talking about his business. But what he was also saying is what's happened in the Philippines is with the lockdowns, people haven't been able to get to the cash sellers to be able to buy foreign exchange. And so small micro entrepreneurs in the Philippines who buy Netflix and Spotify cards to earn a living, and they sell them to people in the villages, have started using crypto for foreign exchange so that they can send very small amounts of currency to get their Netflix and Spotify cards. So people are innovating all around the world. But one of the other points that I wanted to make is we often hear people talking about the unbanked and the underbanked. But having a wallet on your mobile phone means you don't need a bank. And people are innovating in the field of finance. And any of you who've been following what's been going on with DeFi, which is absolutely exploding at the moment, decentralized finance, means that you can undertake all of the traditional functions of the financial system in a decentralized way, directly in a peer-to-peer way. So that opens up all sorts of possibilities. At the moment, it's a bit like the Wild West, and if any of you are involved in it, you probably know that. But as people become more sophisticated and they test the technology and they use it, I think we're going to see a very major transformation of the financial system that's going to allow people to get access to services that have previously been available to people who are much better off. So, blockchain and healthcare, we're right in the middle of COVID. And one of the things that we've seen is a huge amount of innovation in blockchain companies to move into healthcare, or blockchain healthcare companies to accelerate. So the first one is, and I don't know if any of you looked at that Johns Hopkins website, which is still showing those kind of bright blood red circles of where COVID's going next. And that was all enabled on a blockchain platform that allowed for secure data sharing. But it's also been used very quickly because with the shortages of personal protective equipment in the early days of the pandemic, there became quite a lot of problems with fake PPE, and so people started to use blockchains to ensure the security of the PPE equipment. Now, one of the other things that's been an issue during the pandemic has been the credentialing of doctors to come back and work in the health system to treat patients. And that can take months and months and months and months. So people are working on applications for the certification and credentialing of doctors to ensure that the people that are being allowed to work in hospitals actually have the appropriate certification. So that's another interesting use of blockchain that I'm sure is quite relevant across the continent, both for education and for healthcare. Then moving right along there to agriculture, this is an area that there's loads of opportunity to be able to innovate in Africa. So in terms of agriculture, there's three areas that you might want to look at. One is supply chain traceability. Two is using smart contracts for crop insurance. And the third one is microfinancing for poor farmers. And smallholder farmers represent 80% of the food supply in sub-Saharan Africa. And many of the economies in Africa are particularly dependent on agriculture. And there are a whole lot of projects going on in agriculture to improve the payments to farmers, their connection to markets, the provenance of coffee from the Ethiopian highlands to coffee shops in the West, and for catastrophic crop insurance for farmers that are really interesting and offer serious benefits to people in agriculture. There's also people who are experimenting with using weather data and satellite data to be able to help poor farmers know when to grow their crops. So there's a lot of opportunities in agricultural technology that you could be thinking about. Land registry is another one that is a big use case for blockchain in a number of countries because, India, Sweden, Georgia, and are using blockchain to secure land records, land title, property rights. And in fact, there was a company that I met in Nigeria who are using land registry for mortgage applications. So that's something that you might want to think about. And then the final one that I wanted to just talk about to whet your appetite for the exciting things you're going to come up with for this hackathon is around distributed green energy. So these like microgrid networks of solar panels that can be maintained by individual or communities in villages where at a very small cost people can have solar panels and create energy and then sell it for small amounts to people to charge their mobile phones or charge lights for their children to be able to do study at night. So there's so many ways that blockchain can really add value and change things and create sustainable development in Africa. It's a really exciting time. I wish so much that I was there with you and I could go around and talk to all the teams and hear your ideas and encourage you. But from very far away, I'm actually in Australia. I'm not in London because when they started shutting borders, I was in London and I went home to the country that I come from, Australia. And I wish I was there, but I'm with you in spirit and I'm so excited to hear what you're coming up with. So thank you so much. I hope you heard that. And if anyone's got any questions, I guess you can put it in the chat. Thank you, everyone.